Hello. I wrote a poem because I'm sad. I write poems when I'm sad. The poem is called Cherry Balm. I made myself a cherry balm. It makes my nervous system calm. I made it out of wax and oil so that my nerves don't need to boil. All the suffering on earth turns me so much against giving birth. I am an Anti Natalist, which is kinder than being a fundamentalist. I live by love, compassion, and giving, which is the only path worth living. I am a lonely and sad big pony, because the world around me is so phony. Everyone wants to be loved and seen because they want to improve their self-esteem. But being caught up in such an illusion only causes more division and delusion. When we understand the importance of love, people would show much more respect to the dove. We can dissolve all mental blindness with actions of compassion, giving, and kindness. And here is the dog of kindness. So, yeah. That is my poem for today, and I'm gonna make a song out of it, but I tried to do this. Paul liked it, but I didn't like it very much. It's like a lullaby. It sounds more like a lullaby song for a baby or for a shelter animal. That would be good, but it's like not. It's not a very exciting song for adults, so that's definitely not gonna work very well. So the girls, Elle and Tony, check them out. They are really sizzling. They're smashing, sizzling, these girls. So no, they know what they're doing. Okay, those are real musicians. They write things down. They know how to write things in real original classic note forms with a note key and all of that. I forgot most of that. I learned a little bit about it when I was playing the violin, but forgot most of that, so I wouldn't even really know which tone. I don't even have a tuning fork anymore. I don't even know which one is the A anymore. We always start with the A, like and then I think that's the A. I'm probably wrong. It's like the middle tone, okay, and then you go from there, you go up or you go down. And then deeper I can't go, and I can't go very high either. It's all a matter of practice. So I haven't been singing very much in recent years after Kenny and Papa Dog died, so that was just too much for my nerves. That was too much for me. That was so devastating. To me, that was worse than losing my biological child. Much worse. Okay, so which brings me to the subject speciesism. It's a big old sad subject. Okay, and the speciesism has been embedded into the human species for a very long time. Okay, very long time. And people are not even consciously aware of it. They think they're all animal lovers. My parents, big animal lovers and all of that. You know, when I came home, when I was 24, I came home to my parents and I said I've been with Alto Mausespeck my grandfather's Great Dane, a fawn, and he was getting sick and he was not very healthy, and this was making me very worried. And I took him to a non-medical practitioner, a holistic practitioner, because I wanted to do things naturally. But then she talked me into a fresh cell cure because she thought it was the C word, and the fresh cell cures make things actually worse. But I didn't know that at the time. I thought this was the holistic treatment of the year or of the millennium or whatever. And I said to my dad, we need to do this fresh cell cure, but it costs a lot of money, and are you willing to pay? And he said, I'm always willing to pay for health services. And I loved that because he included the dog in it, and so he didn't make a distinction between always supporting health for this or that group. Okay, so health for all living beings, and I was all happy. But then he said the same old thing that was almost like an automated record that came out of him. He smiled and he kind of chuckled and he said, well, that dog is your substitute child. And I was like, everything about that statement felt so incredibly wrong, but because I'm always like a late developer, I was really more like 14 than 24, so I didn't know what to say. Physically, I was completely an adult and big and everything big, right? My brain too. Or 25 I was or something. And I think the brain hemispheres had just closed, and I was starting to ask questions and stuff. So just for the first time, other kids already do that at age 13. When I was 13, I was like 8. So I'm always lagging behind, not cognitively, but psychologically. Okay, so my psychological development is lagging behind, which also, of course, puts you into a different bracket of developmental psychology. I mean, obviously, there are different stages that kids go through in terms of cognitive understanding as well, and asking questions and so on. But I seem to understand a bunch of things. I just didn't ask the questions because I was like a stunned child. That's what I was. And with Asperger's, which made it even more complicated. But I just stood there, didn't know how to respond to it. Today, of course, it's easy, okay? I see the whole picture. I would say to my dad, no. He is not my substitute child. He is my real child. He is the real deal, okay? That's what I would say to him. That's what I say to people on the internet. My dog is the real deal. He is my real child, okay? My adoptive child. Obviously, I didn't give birth to him. That doesn't matter. That doesn't make anything different at all, okay? So that is my baby. That is my child. I give my life for him. I do anything I can to make him feel good, to make him healthy and happy, okay? So I live for him. I write poetry for him. I write songs for him. I sing for him. And that's what I've always done for my dogs, for all of my dogs. My dogs are my gods, and they're my children. And my dad, being unconscious, I don't know what he would say. He would probably snicker if I say that to him now. And he wouldn't argue with me because he loves animals. They would just then go on saying that we're all animal lovers and so. But the statement comes out so automated, an automated, ingrained, programmed. It's a program that needs to be eliminated. It's an automated, unconscious program to say to someone, oh, that's your substitute child. It's an obsolete, ridiculous, and non-functional statement that needs to be put in the trash can or recycle bin. That would be it can be recycled into its original parts and dismembered and made new into something better, into something productive, right? So into the statement, my dog is my child, and my dog is the real deal, my real child. I wasn't mad at him. I know where he's coming from. He's coming from old school. He's coming from brainwashing and unconscious programs, and I don't know if I could change him today. He's almost 100 years old. I don't even know if he's still alive. I have no contact anymore to them. My brother cut that off, that contact. That last contact I had to my dad, my brother cut it off. Because my brother rewrote the will into his name. So in order to maintain that, he has to make sure that my dad and I have no more contact. And he's probably bad-mouthed me like there's no tomorrow. Okay. He's done that to my whole family. But anyway, I'm not making this video about my brother. It just is what it is. Okay, so I'm accepting that as part of my soul school. So my brother is going to spend all the money on drugs and alcohol and parties and gold diggers and hookers, and there's nothing I can do about it. Okay, so precious money that could be used for something very useful, for making the world a better place, for example, for creating the first therapy help center, for example. With that kind of money, he could do it, but he doesn't. He'll spend it all on drugs. In just a couple of years, the money will be done. After my dad is no longer there, that's what my brother will do. Okay, the bank owns their property already, so hopefully he keeps them alive and healthy and happy for as long as possible, because he lives there. So once my dad is no longer there, the banks are gonna take the property, and they will kick my brother out and his gold digger. Bye-bye. So, okay, whatever. So now these people are parasitic, to say the least. But there's a lot of parasitic humans on this planet. Bill Gates and Sam Altman are parasitic humans. Okay, that's a fact. Okay, it's a fact of life. So a lot of them, a lot of parasitic entities in the White House also that are making Donald Trump's life very miserable. And they also do extortions and you name it. And Donald Trump there's nothing on him. But the parasitic entities know how to twist things around. They know how to propagate false propaganda against anyone. And they will use whatever. They will use, he's on the Epstein list. He has talked to Jeffrey Epstein before. My goodness, that's an incrimination. My goodness, now he's on the Epstein list because he's talked blah 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 like this to Jeffrey Epstein, while Jeffrey Epstein turned into a reptilian right in front of his eyes. No, probably most likely not. But no, that's all So nothing else, right? No. Donald Trump, he looked at women. Oh, Jeffrey Epstein, he had some of the photo models there with him. And they may have been 17, but they looked 18. Wow. So Donald Trump looked because he likes to look at beautiful women. You don't? No. So you, the accuser, you don't look. You know, you never look at young women, right? No, you never do. No, you are such a saintly person. You never look at a young girl. You know, even Paul looks at young women and says right in front of me, he says, man, they are good looking when they're young. And I'm like, well, I had that already when I was 18. But anyway, but then later on, it doesn't get any better, right? So when they're looking good, when they're young, I don't hold it against him because he's right. They look good. And that Bonnie Blue, she looks good. That's an understatement, okay? I mean, she is sizzling hot. Every straight woman like myself grudgingly has to agree to this, okay? Whether we like it or not, you have to agree that she is sizzling hot and she has an outstandingly beautiful face, okay? So her face is a doll's face, okay? Not like my face, that I have a very weird face, okay? Like Joan of Arc. I look like that lady from Germany that was sent in the 1600s to live with Henry VIII, and he pushed her off his bedside. She had big boobs too, of course, and he pushed her off the bed. He said, sorry, I can't consummate this marriage. No, you're gonna have to. But and she ended up having the best life of all these former wives of Henry VIII. She turned out to really cash in on the good side because he gave her a huge allowance. He gave her a palace to live in. He just didn't want to sleep with her, so he went to the girl that, a young, very young, red-headed girl, was the name Catherine, I believe. So, and with little boobs, little pointy boobs. He liked that. That's Henry VIII was into this. So this big boob type of phenomenon, that happened later. That happened out of some kind of psychological desperation, I think. That's what I believe. It's this fixation on large breasts. And that Bonnie Blue, she thinks her breasts aren't large, that they're normal size. So there's nothing wrong with her breasts. She has beautiful breasts. She has beautiful body. And an outstanding face, which captivates anyone. And the body is incredible, amazing legs, also amazing sexy leg shapes, and butt, everything, absolutely stunningly gorgeous. And it would turn every single person on, including straight women, to see her having sex with a bunch of boys. So it would. Don't lie to yourself now and stand there with your grudging face and your jealous facial expression and beat down on this woman, okay, for living her life. That Bonnie Blue, I view her like a philosopher, okay? So to me, she's a philosopher. To me, she is a more advanced soul. Okay, what she's doing is she takes the existing situation in society today, and she creates a cartoon of it, and then shoves that cartoon mirror into everyone's face. And that's what that Braden Eric Peters is doing too, in his own way. So clavicular. So seeing clavicular and Bonnie Blue together. Oh man. That's every porn watcher's ideal situation. That must be amazing. But she likes Chris Hemsworth, and just the fact that she likes Chris Hemsworth adds even more to her character, personality, and her genuinity and her kindness. She's a very kind person from England. Okay. Beautiful British accent, very sweet, very, very, very gentle. She loves animals. I can imagine she's an animal rights activist who stands up for the animals, for the innocents. So I don't know that much about her. I watched a couple of interviews, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like looking at a beautiful painting, just smelling a beautiful perfume, looking at a beautiful doll. Okay, so, and I admire her. She has a lot of chutzpah, as my friend Rita always used to say. She said, "Nicola, you are so Berkeley. You have a lot of chutzpah." So I guess that's old Yiddish and means courage. So she has a lot of courage, that lady. So she has the courage to create an extreme out of the current situation and show us show it right into our faces. Okay, this is the situation. Here is the despair. Here is the extreme despair of young men. Extreme despair. Okay, young men are in extreme despair today. Not just the ones that are deviant from their gender. Those are even more despair, of course. But the straight young men, okay, that still have their natural libido going on without having to take all of these Cialis and Viagra and whatever they're called. Okay, so they still have their potency going on, and that's very attractive to women, whether women admit it or not. Okay, you gotta admit that this is very attractive. Obviously, barely 18, of course it's attractive. You know, spring break, all the young girls, barely 18, no one says anything, that's all cool, right? That just leads up to snatching women and putting them into dungeons. Yeah, it's all people think these are fine young men that are doing this and all of that. But if the situation is reversed, if there is a woman, if there is a bordel mama of some sort, if there is a feminist like me who says, why not reverse it, right? I mean, people who freely admit they are attracted to 18-year-old men, boys. Okay, so all of a sudden, these witches, these radical, militant feminists, how dare they say something like this? Oh, they need to be stoned to death. People have said all of these things to her and to other women like her, to me too. So several said they want to behead me. For what? For being myself? For being an equal? For standing up for women's rights? For standing up for justice? Of course. Because they don't want justice. They want their human trafficking situation. They want their male dominance. But here's what happens in that situation. Women are scared. Women are now terrified to death. That's the situation, okay? That is the full truth of it. And this results in women and girls thinking 10 times before they date someone. Like, let me do an entire background check on this person. Let me do espionage and remote viewing on that person. I don't do that, but I wouldn't blame women for wanting to do this in order to verify their suspicions. Okay, so before they ever travel to Afghanistan to their new internet boyfriend. So, like, really don't do it, okay? Like, absolutely, totally do not do it. Red bar across. Don't do this. Women, girls have been killed. Brutally, brutally murdered by doing this. Their German parents, woke as hell. I don't want to use the F word anymore. Okay. Woke as hell. Yeah, I support you. Here's $200 for your trip. Have a good time. Enjoy the beaches. She ain't coming back. Sorry, no. She's being brutally murdered. Brutally raped to death. Raped to death until her body bleeds. That's the result of your incredibly hideous and moronic wokeism. That's the result of it. Makes me mad. Makes me very, very mad. But that's the Germans. And I know the Germans very well because I'm one of them. But unlike most Germans, I think for myself. And I question things. And I couldn't stand Germany anymore. I just couldn't stand it. Yuck. My friend Monica also, she couldn't stand the development there. With all these refugees coming in, trapping her cats in trap baskets and stuff like that. It was just gradually going downhill. That's what was going on. And it's a pity. And of course, that brings up a new generation and new ways of thinking in some groups in Germany. Of course. Of course, some groups will pendulum the other direction. People tend to pendule either in one extreme or the other. Because there's always these extreme groups. People think they have to be in one of the extreme groups. I will never be in any of these groups. Never participate in that. I think for myself, and I want you to think for yourself as well. That's the only way of living. It's ice cold here now. I have to go back in the house. I think it's 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so. And it's June now, so that just says something about this wild climate here at the Pacific Ocean. So that's another reason why I want to move to the desert, because the weather is much more stable. In the winter it will get very cold. Colder than here, the snow will stay on the ground, but in the summer it will get to 100 degrees, which I like, but we can, with greenhouses and drip irrigation on the roof, we can bring the temperature down inside of the greenhouse. Also with the hoses and drip irrigation inside of the greenhouse, or maybe having a pool on the inside of the greenhouse, larger greenhouse than this, of course, like commercial greenhouses, then we can create a stable environment. Also for the winter time, this will be. And I see that that is the future of architecture. My dad, who's an architect, he was appalled by that idea. What? Future of architecture? Greenhouses? Dome houses? Geodesic domes? I mean, that Buckminster Fuller was a visionary architect from the United States, who first came up with the idea of a geodesic dome, built into plates of glass that are then arranged into a dome type of structure, this is the solution. People have created those. There's a family in Sweden who've created a very large geodesic dome. It costs a lot of money for a geodesic dome, of course. But for people who don't have a lot of money, like Paul and me, we have to resort to commercial greenhouses with a soft cover, but a very thick soft cover. And that very thick commercial grade soft cover, when that gets eroded, then you can just buy another one, put it on top of the old one, which gives it even more temperature stability. So that's what we're planning on doing. But the Swedish family in Sweden, in Sweden it gets so extremely cold in the winter time that the animals all go into hibernation. Bears go in hibernation, wolves go into hibernation, squirrels, all the animals. And they built this geodesic dome, humongous structure, and they built a house inside. And they have their fruit and vegetable gardens all year round, and the indoor temperature inside of the geodesic dome is always stable, even in the winter time. It's always about 20 degrees Celsius, which is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So all year round. Now that's pretty darn awesome. So that's the future of living. And that's how every smart person has to restructure their life. And if you don't, you get pushed over by the elements. You get pushed over by coldness, by excessive heat, by droughts, and so on. So you have to know what you're doing, because global warming is causing droughts. It is causing floods. It is causing extreme weather patterns, extreme in every way. Extreme cold, extreme hot temperatures. The ocean level is rising every year by several inches, rising and rising and rising, flooding entire Pacific islands. The people have to be evacuated. I hope they bring their animals with them. This is the reality. This is the fact. This is not a hoax. This is not just some Illuminati propaganda. It's the truth. Okay, scientific research has been done independently around the globe by many countries, including Japan. They all came to the same numbers. So this is a fact. So right there's no way I can ever take one camp over another, okay? Because I look at the facts, I look at the truth of all of this, and I see what the, whatever you want to call it, Illuminati, underworld, reptile, string holders, whatever you want to call them, they will use anything for their advantage. They can turn the Peace and Freedom Party into a weaponized war propaganda, woke brainwash modality. They can, because they have done it with the Democratic Party. The other parties they're not that interested in, because they don't get that much support. But the Democratic Party, they completely turned into a woke propaganda modality They turn it into a cartel medium, a cartel mafia help modality. Okay? People have been murdered in the Democratic Party, so just keep that in mind. So the only party we have left now is the Republican Party, but don't make the mistake of swaying now into the other extreme, like Nick Fuentes. Okay, I see his comments on X. I'm very sad about all of these. That guy is not mature. Okay, so don't mistake him with Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley, they're about the same age, about 20 or something, very young. Nick Shirley is very reason-based, thinks for himself. That Nick Fuentes is just completely penduled towards the right-wing side, and that there's nothing positive and reasonable coming out of that. So, and I'm very sad that Candace Owens has interviewed Hunter Biden and acts like this is everything against him was just a hoax or something, which is not true. Okay, what she's doing is she's paid. That's what I think. She's paid to promote Hunter Biden running for president. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Hunter Biden for president. Can you imagine? That's like, that's like taking a homeless person from the street and making him into the president. That is what the underworld knows how to do. They can make anyone. They can make you or me or Paul into a president. Anyone. Okay. They can make my dog into president of the United States. They have that. They have market psychologists. They can market anything. They can make this hat here into the president of the United States. Okay. They can make this here, my sewing kit, into the president of the United States. That's how knowledgeable the market psychologists are about your mind and your brain. That's how they got you by the throat and by the balls. Okay, that's how they have wrapped your brain around their finger. Don't allow that. Stand your ground. Stand in the middle. Stand above. Most of all, be way out there if necessary. Okay, people have accused me many years ago. You're so way out there, just as if that's something bad, right? Yeah, I'm way out there. Thank goodness. I see everything from the sky perspective. So, but anyway, I'm getting cold. Peace and love for all living beings and ETs and reptiles.